So, CES, the Consumer Electronics Show, started earlier this week in Vegas, and a lot of people there, a lot of people not there. But true to form, the big three had their presentations pretty much first. I say big three: NVIDIA, AMD, and Intel, because those are the three that, if I have anything to do or have anything to do primarily with what this channel has to do with, like PC parts and components and all, those three are the key and the most important because they're designers and manufacturers. Today we're going to be talking about graphics. Okay, specifically we're going to be talking about discrete graphics and PC or on the CPU graphics. Not so much with Intel. Intel had presentation. It had more to do with AI and some other stuff than it did anything with their graphics solutions. We're mainly going to be talking about NVIDIA, who introduced 3 new cards, and AMD, who introduced another card, and some graphics on their CPUs. And I'll kind of break these down into both of those sections, NVIDIA and AMD, and we'll kind of go over the good, the bad, and we'll see how that goes. So we'll start with NVIDIA first. NVIDIA had their presentation. They've got 3 new graphics cards coming out. They're the super updates on their 4000 line of GPUs or graphics cards. You've got the 4080 Super, you've got the 4070 Ti Super, and then you've got the 4070 Super. Now, the good thing about these is that in the case of, say, the 4070 Super, it's coming out for the same price as the 4070. Which means the 4070 will drop just a little bit. The 4080 Super is actually coming out less than the 4080 sold for. $200 less. Is going to come out for about $1,000 instead of $1,200. The 4080 was just, it's going to ride off into the sunset. Both of these cards, I believe, come with 16 gig of VRAM memory on the card itself, so that will help with editing. That will help with some of the newer titles that require more memory and all that, and so that's not too bad. The really good about this is one thing that kind of slid in that I noticed on some people's presentations or some people's kind of review of the subject is the AV1 encoder. Now, traditionally, NVIDIA has used the NVENC encoder and have been using that for years, and it's a great encoder. That's the thing that turns what I'm doing now into a video that you can actually watch. That process, or everything, has a way of manipulating a codec or a stream of information that it then turns into a file that can be watched or listened to or whatever. So all those codecs have to be transcoded somehow or have to be converted somehow. The NVENC encoder is the tool that NVIDIA uses, and it's copyrighted, licensed, and all that stuff to NVIDIA. So that means AMD can't use it. That means Intel can't use it or anything. However, the AV1 encoder happens to be a much better encoder than some of the existing encoders that are out on the market that are standardly used, like the H.264 and all that. And it's open source from what I understand. So anybody can use it. And that is really good because if anybody's heard me talk about the Intel graphics card that I've got, the Arc A750, you'll know that it has an AV1 encoder, and that's what I do that's why I do my editing for all these YouTube videos. They're done with that AV1 encoder, and it's great. It's a smaller file size, it's a high quality file, and it does the job very, very quickly, converting those to MP4s so I can display that. I can put it on YouTube. It's a great thing. But it was kind of glossed over. Nobody really talked about that encoder now being on NVIDIA's cards as well. So I was a little bit surprised by that, but I saw it in all their decks. I'm like, wait a minute, that wasn't there before, because traditionally they had been the ones that weren't going to do it. I guess they were going to be the holdout because their NVENC encoder has been their standard for so long. It's a good standard. Don't get me wrong. The NVENC encoder is a great tool, but this AV1 encoder I think it's a better tool. And now the big three, Intel, AMD, and NVIDIA, are all going to be using that. So the pricing, okay. The AV1 encoder, okay. Still very power efficient. And all 3 of these cards that come out are better than the top tier or the top card from the last generation, the RTX 3090. All 3 of these cards coming out will perform better, they say, than the RTX 3090, according to NVIDIA, of course. So those are the good and the really good. The bad. 4070 Ti Super? What are we in third grade here? I'm better than you are. I'm smarter than you are. Well, I have come on. You've got two suffixes on top of each other. It's like, make up your mind. Is it a Ti or a Super? Well, it can't be a Ti because you already had a Ti, and it can't be a Super because now you get a Super. So now we have a Ti Super. Why, if you're going to make a bacon cheeseburger, just call it a bacon cheeseburger. In any case, whatever they do, that confusing thing aside, the only other bad thing I can see about this release is it's still using the Fireman's Dream as a power connector on all these cards. Now, they have tried to do things to make it safer, but the other companies are still using standard connectors. And I guess until we finally get to a point where we know that this isn't going to torch somebody's house, I'm always going to kind of be wary of that connector. If you do have a card with that connector, leave me some feedback down at the bottom. Have you had any problems with that connector coming loose? Or what have you done to make sure that it was tightly fit? Or have you seen any kind of signs of any kind of damage or anything, or any kind of, especially, I guess, if somebody's trying to overclock their GPU? Let me know down below in the comments if you've had any issues with that, or how it's been working for you. You know, I might be totally off base here, and it might be working great, and it's just a very, very small percentage of those that we hear a very big thing about. So who knows? But if you have any comments about it, please just leave them down below. While you're down there, like, subscribe, do all that stuff too. So let's go ahead and change gears and talk about AMD for a minute. And there's two different sections of this, so we'll cover the good, the bad, and all that, or whatever. In both sections. The first one being the discrete graphics, which is the RX 7600 XT. That is going to be an upgrade from the 7600. The good about this, okay, it's coming in, it's got extra memory. It's going to have double the VRAMs. It's going to be 16 gig instead of 8 gig, which was good. It'll be better with productivity. It'll be better with AAA titles that now require it. A lot of these games are requiring more than 8 gig, and so this is going to be able to fill that. Will it make that big of a difference? I don't know. I think the bus speed and a few other things might make a bigger difference than the RAM that's actually on the card, but we'll have to see how it goes. The bad, it's still power hungry. One of the things about NVIDIA that was really good is that these cards that are coming out now are more efficient. They're more power efficient than the last generation and even some of the newer 4000 series. AMD, still power hungry. But so that's the bad. I couldn't see too much other bad than this, except for maybe the price drop. I would like to have seen. I would have liked to have seen a bigger price drop when this 7600 came in. It's coming at, I guess you could call this that. It's coming in at 330 or 329, and it will have that 7600 going to 300 or 299. I would have probably liked to see that go to 279 instead of sitting at 299. It's still an okay deal, but you don't have really any sub 300 cards. The RTX 4060 or this, which are the comparisons to each other, none of them are below 300. I think the 4050 might be around that same range, but I mean, it would have been really nice to see this drop down to 279. Really would have loved to have seen it drop down to like 259. That would be cool, but I don't think we're going to see that. We're going to have to rely on Intel. Believe it or not, we're going to have to rely on Intel to give us a budget-worthy, good gaming card. And I'll be curious to see how this card stacks up. There's comparisons to the 4060, but I'd be curious to see how this card stacks up to, say, the A750. That's a thought. So now we're going to switch gears a little bit. We're going to talk about AMD and their CPU side of things, which also have a couple of graphics solutions. Yes, the discrete, dedicated graphics cards, there's only one of them. The other graphics solutions are going to be on the CPU. Now, they have done this before, but they haven't done it quite like this. The new processors that will have graphics are going to be on the 8000 series. And there's a couple of those out, but the main ones that I am concerned with or talking about are the 8700G and the 8600G. They now will have Radeon graphics, so the RDNA graphics that you'll find in discrete graphics cards that are coming out right now. Although there won't be as many cores, it won't be as beefy a solution. These are going to have the 780M, the 8700G, the top of the line, will have the 780M, which is the mobile graphics that you find in a lot of notebook computers, which is very, very good. And the 8600G will have the M760, which is just a step below that, but still very solid. Both of these should be able to play a lot of titles at 60 frames per second. So AMD is trying to get into this market of making sure that maybe you don't even need a budget graphics card. So if we're going to go with a good, let's go with that. They've got a couple of these new models coming out, and they are solid, and they're on the AM5 platform. But Paul, I don't have an AM5. I still have an AM4. Well, we kind of got you covered there too, because there's two more that are coming out on the 5000 series. Now, this might get just a tad bit confusing, but we've got a 5600 GT and we've got a 5500 GT. Now, you may have heard about the 5700G and the 5600G. Those seem to be going away. We're going to be replacing those with a 5600 GT and a 5500 GT. The biggest difference in these is going to be the graphics solution. They're going to have Radeon graphics on them now instead of Vega graphics. So the same RDNA graphics that are on the new cards and the new 8000 series CPUs will end up being on these 5000 series. So we won't have the Vega graphics that we did on the 5600 and 5700G or the 22 and 2400G before them, a couple series back. We're going to replace that Vega with the new RDNA or the Radeon graphics, and that's what's going to be on the chip now. So this and also should give us a very playable experience on these CPUs without needing a graphics card. And in some cases, maybe, like I said, just not even needing a budget type graphics card at all. So this is something that could fit into people's budgets and could work very well to get you started before things, before you upgrade things and need to be buying other more expensive components. So one of the drawbacks of the 5600G and the 5700G was the fact that while all the rest of the Ryzen 5000s, the 5000 series, while all the rest of those were operating on PCIe 4.0, your graphics cards, your NVMe drives and all that stuff, those were only capable of 3.0. And they were only, the DDR4 memory was only running at 3200 megatransfers per second. So you were limited in how fast the processing power, how fast the bus speed and all that. Basically, for every generation jump, you double. So from going from 3 to 4 is doubled. Now, in a lot of cases, the new AM5 with DDR5 memory is running similar speeds to the well-oiled machine that is now DDR4 memory up in the higher transfer speeds, but it's taken a while to get there. And DDR5 is just starting, so by the time that gets to be mature, it's going to be a very different story. It's going to be a very, very different story by the time you get there. However, we're still limited with this. We're still stuck at a lower transfer speed for memory. We're still stuck at a lower transfer speed for graphics, which will become evident before too long. And we're still stuck at a lower transfer speed for your NVMe drives. So that was the biggest problem with 5600 and 5700G. And the reason why I kind of say still stuck at, is because the GT series is the same way. You would figure they're going to Radeon graphics, they would be able to go ahead and make this PCIe 4.0 as well. And that's not the case. Evidently, what has changed on this chip is just the graphics solution. And that's the only thing that's changed on here is the actual part of the chip that handles graphics. I'm not sure what the decision for that was, or if it's just a heat thing, or it's just a whatever size thing, or whatever might be the deal. But in any case, it is what it is. Now, as far as cost and all that stuff, I haven't heard anything about the chips yet. I'm sure we'll hear something very quickly. It might already be out. I don't know. I haven't heard. I know that AMD usually, the CPUs usually do drop in price pretty well, so I would expect these not to be too expensive. I would be very disappointed to see these more expensive than the current 5600 and 5700G. But you're going to get about the same compute power. You're just going to get better graphics, which for some of us, most of us, is going to be just fine. But as things age, maybe not. But still, this is, there's still a lot of people out there that are building systems on first-gen Ryzen. So maybe it's not that bad of a leap, but we'll just have to see. In any case, I think it's one of those things that I want to test. I want to get a 5600 GT and test alongside a 5600G, the original, and see kind of what the difference is, or if this 5600 GT is supposed to be the replacement for the 5700G. I don't know. I'll have to do a little bit more digging. I'll have to look at the spec sheets a little bit more. In any case, I'll be curious to see what the prices are. I'll be curious to get one so I can test it. And, you know, if nothing else, AMD is not just putting graphics on a CPU so we can see if the computer works or not. They're actually putting graphics on a CPU to make sure that we can do some stuff. It's not going to be a ton of stuff. You're not going to be able to do high productivity. You're not going to be able to edit and all that stuff, but you'll be able to play some games. And like I said with the 8000 series, you might be able to get rid of a budget GPU altogether. We've already figured out that 5600G is as good or better than the old GT 1030s. So, this might also take the place of some of those little bit better cards. We might be talking something that would take the place of a 1600 series card. But I wouldn't be too surprised if before too long that something like the 8000 series does replace or does do better than, say, a GTX 1650 or 1660. I don't know. We'll have to see. I'll be very curious when it comes out. These all should be hitting in Q1. We should be able to see a lot of the discrete graphics cards January. Those have all been announced from like the 17th to the 31st. So we'll see a bunch of those back to back to back. I definitely know I'm not going to be getting any kind of review samples, and I'm not going to be buying one in between to do a review on. But I invite you guys to check your favorite creators. They're going to have a ton of reviews, I know, over the next couple of weeks. And it's starting next week. So there's going to be a ton of stuff. So, yeah. What are your thoughts? That's it. I'm curious. Are you guys on an AMD platform? And if so, are you rocking one of these APUs already, the 5600 or 5700? What's your flavor of video card? Do you have a NVIDIA 4000 series? What do you think of it? Are you thinking about upgrading to one of these supers? Or if you're in the budget area, are you now thinking about one of those RX 7600 XTs? Because it looks to be a really, really good card for a decent amount of money. And we know the 6600 for $200, that RX 6600 for around $200 is a smoking deal. And you can still get that brand new with support. So I'd be curious to see what the 7600, the 7600 XT, how that stacks up. That might be something I do soon. We'll see. Anyway, if you get anything out of the video whatsoever, don't forget to comment. I'm curious about what you guys' thoughts are. But if you got anything out of it, go ahead and hit a like. If you're not already subscribed, please do so. Really trying to get to 1,000 as soon as we can. Getting really close. And thank you for everybody that subscribed over the past month and a half, 2 months, whatever. It's been huge. It's been amazing. I'm sorry I haven't put out as many videos as I should be during that time period. But things have been kind of crazy. They've been hectic and kind of fun. But yeah, a little bit crazy. But if you don't do any of that other stuff or go see, visit any of my socials or anything like that, just do me one favor. And that's be kind to each other. Be nice. Wave, smile, hold the door open. Just say good morning. Something, anything. It costs absolutely nothing to be kind. And you might just end up making somebody's entire day. You never know. You could be the reason somebody has a good day. Think of that. That's a heck of a lot of responsibility, isn't it? Anyway, all right. So you guys have a good one. Take care of yourselves. And until the next time when I get myself into something I got no business getting into, like more Optiplex stuff or Chromebox or, yeah. Anyway, I'll see you later.